Startup Talk with Zaki Adnan. Startup Talk.
Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to yet another episode of Startup Talk with me, Zaki Adnan, on Dhaka FM 90.4. Ajke we have an amazingly special guest, and it's a very special day. Ajke Ramadan's first episode. So happy Ramadan, ladies and gentlemen. And Ami, before we start, I want to introduce our guest, our special guest today, the one and only, the amazing Sajid Rahman, the CEO of Telenor Health, and also the guru of our startup ecosystem. And Bhaiya, you have no idea how big of a fan I am and we are of your work and how you have impacted our ecosystem. So, today's topic is very, very interesting. So, today, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be talking about the future. And our episode is also being broadcasted on Facebook. So, if you guys want to watch the video, you can check out from our Facebook page.
Thanks, Zaki. Thanks for the introduction.
Absolutely, it's an honor. Thank you so much for making time and joining us. We know how busy you are. It's crazy যে আপনি how you balance everything. So আজকে ভাই যেটা বলছিলাম যে আমরা basically future নিয়ে কথা বলতে চাই, and we're all very excited about hearing your thoughts on how you see the future. So if you could start off by saying যে what do you think are the three biggest trends that will define this digital space in the future?
It's very difficult to trim down on three trends.
I'm sorry for the difficult challenge here.
No, but I think we are living at a time which is probably the most interesting and exciting time in human history.
Absolutely.
There has never been a time where so many things were happening. And I think
all at once,
so it's a big confluence, a sort of a perfect storm that's happening. So but Amar Monhaj, if you ask me on three, so I'll say first is the explosion of artificial intelligence,
right?
And the use of artificial intelligence. So artificial intelligence as a concept has been there for a while, and there had been different forms of artificial intelligence that has been used, like Google, and everyone has been using it in different forms. But I think now artificial intelligence is becoming much more mainstream, and the usage of artificial intelligence on a day-to-day level is becoming mainstream.
If you could,
so for example, let's say so we are looking at robotics and others, right? So we are looking at options where the robots are going to use their intelligence to serve you, right? We are seeing companies who are basically replacing barista in cafes.
Right.
So there is one company called Cafe X where they have Cafe X where they have already put in robots using artificial intelligence. So where you go and they make you the perfect coffee.
It exists.
Right
now.
So, yeah. So they started in Hong Kong and of course then in Silicon Valley and
San Francisco. My God.
So
are you by any chance involved with Cafe X?
No, I'm not. But I think as I'm saying that so this is becoming very mainstream.
Absolutely.
There is one data where they showed that. Because of use of artificial intelligence, one of the very large banks in the world, they could eliminate almost 3,000 hours of legal work.
Okay.
Replaced it by an artificial intelligence who can do it in 3 hours.
Oh my God.
So these are the impact we are looking at when it comes to
3,000 hours of work?
Legal work. So these are talking about lawyers who does the legal work. Or the shop kachta.
All the due diligences and everything pretty much.
So that I think is going to be a big impact for us at a social level, at a company level. The second, I think, is a concept called CRISPR, CRISPR. CRISPR is a concept where, the biology. So what used to happen is, আগে তুমি যদি কোনো ডাক্তার কাছে যেতে ডাক্তার used to fix it, right? So তুমি বলছো যে আমার ব্যথা করছে whatever. But nowadays I think what's happening is the doctors are more becoming like engineers. So they just don't want to fix problem, they want to improve.
Right.
So the whole idea is that how we can improve human body.
Right.
And that's where the CRISPR comes in. So because most of the challenges that we face, আমাদের human body is coming from DNAs.
Okay.
So CRISPR is a method of DNA editing.
Okay.
So where they use a certain process to edit DNAs. And there is an example of a company which got an FDA approval.
Okay.
And they launched a certain type of medicine which basically can cure a type of leukemia, blood cancer, almost 100%. And this has already been rolled out using
by DNA editing.
Yeah.
But how does it work?
আমাদের DNA has certain structure, right? So at a very molecular level, obviously, it's just going in and changing the structure of the DNA. And
So
then,
এটা মানে physically how would it work? মানে will I be at the clinic and will I be sticking out my hand and they'll be doing how does it work?
it's basically, you use medicines and others to influence the DNA structure.
Okay, so medicines after I consume the medicine, it will get into my system and then
Sometimes,
Oh my god.
So that's one of the
that is crazy.
but that's getting very, we are not there yet, but there is a significant progress on DNA editing. So I think
Wow.
because the reason I say it will be very influential, because then most of the diseases, the way we know it today, will not exist.
Wow.
There may be some new diseases that we know
That
now.
would completely disrupt the medical industry as we know it, right?
It will disrupt many things. It will disrupt medical industry. It will significantly increase our longevity. And if people started living 100 years, then it has a significant impact on income in society and many other levels, right?
So by pharmaceutical industries, there are a lot of conspiracy theories, like how they are actually stopping a lot of innovations from taking over the market because it would significantly impact their stakes. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't think so. I say, one of the big challenges for us, তুমি যখনই দেখবা যে কোনো একটা ডেভেলপমেন্ট বা ইনোভেশন হচ্ছে, the thing that decide what is going to be innovated or improved is where the fund goes.
Right.
So the moment you have money to invest in a certain problem, that problem gets resolved, right?
Right.
So the question is that whether that level of funding going to a certain research or not will decide the fate.
And this space, gene editing space, is actually
it is getting very mainstream because a lot of pharmaceutical companies are realizing that this is going to be the future.
Nice.
Yeah.
What else? What is the third?
The third one is সবাই খুব use করে. So is I think it's called blockchain, right? So the idea of blockchain is very different. আমাদের one of the big challenges for us. So it's a plus and minus. If you look at digital, right? So let's say তুমি একটা বই 100 জনকে দিবা. Now you want to buy 100 books physically and give it to them. Or you can convert that book into a digital format and can distribute to 100 people without any additional cost, right? So that was the beauty of being digital.
Absolutely.
But the downside of it, this is called this is a Byzantine general's problem. It's called it. So the downside of it is that you can replicate a digital item in 1,000 times.
Right.
And you can do it in 10,000 times.
Right.
You can't stop replicating it.
Absolutely,
right?
absolutely.
So the way the blockchain is developed is that it is designed in a way which is called a proof of work, one of it, or a consensus mechanism, where you can't just replicate a digital thing.
Right.
So there is a encryption is one process, of course, but then the idea that you can't just replicate a digital thing opens a lot of doors. So for example, তোমার ধরো digital art. There is I think, I don't know whether you follow, there's something called CryptoKitties.
CryptoKitties.
So they formed a digital kitten cat. কিন্তু আগে যেটা হতো কি, if it's a digital art, you could have multiplied it by a million times.
Absolutely.
But because it's on blockchain, you can't just multiply it.
So
there's only one unique
CryptoKitten.
digital kitten, right?
Wow.
So the question is that if that happens, then this can be replicated in so many areas.
Absolutely.
So for example, আমাদের দেশে বা সব জায়গায় বিরাট প্রবলেম হচ্ছে কি, ল্যান্ড ওনারশিপ, কে কার কাছে জমি কিনলো, কে কার কাছে বিক্রি করলো. But if you put it in a blockchain,
right,
no one can change it.
Wow.
So the question is that if you do the land ownership on a blockchain, if you do medical record on a blockchain, nowadays tomar banking transactions and others on blockchain, that becomes no one can change it, no one can destroy it. So that opens a huge opportunity for them.
Fantastic. I'm sure your mind is already boggling with a lot more impact on how the future would look. But আমাদের, since we have a very limited time, so ভাই আমরা একটা ছোট break নিব, and we'd love to hear about how these three trends যেটা আপনি বললেন, এটা বাংলাদেশের পার্সপেক্টিভে কিভাবে relevant হবে, and how would AI really impact Bangladesh in current times and shorter future and longer future. So we're going to take a short break, and Bhaiya has given me the privilege to play whatever music I want. But I would like to start off with one of your favorite songs, a Bruce Springsteen song. It's called Streets of Philadelphia. So I'm going to shune ekta choto break er por we'll come back.
Sure.
Dhaka FM 90.4. Startup Talk with Zaki Adnan. Startup Talk.
Hey, what's up, ladies and gentlemen? Apnar Shunshin, Startup Talk with me, Zaki Adnan, only on Dhaka FM 90.4. And we have the amazing Sajid Rahman, the CEO of Telenor Health, and a world-renowned investor and startup ecosystem guru. And bhaiya amra ajke we have a very interesting and a different topic to talk about. Jodio I'm sure a lot of listeners are, aching to hear about your thoughts on the startup ecosystem. We'll get there. But ekhon jeta bolchilam je amra we're talking about something even more interesting, the future. So bhaiya apnar sathe break er age jeta niye kotha bolchilam je you said the three big trends from your perspective that would shape our future is AI, blockchain and gene editing. Right? So, Bangladesh's perspective থেকে how do you think these are relevant? If we could start.
I think তোমার AI তো is very relevant. তোমার আমরা আমাদের অনেক সময় আমরা মনে করি যে এগুলা খুব far-fetched thinking, এগুলা খুব developed market হচ্ছে। কিন্তু হয় কি যখন this technology changes happen, it follows a curve. Initially it seems irrelevant and suddenly it becomes very relevant.
Right.
So, artificial intelligence Bangladeshe যেমন I read somewhere that they're already looking at putting in robots in garments industries, right? So the question is that if artificial intelligence comes in, it can impact a lot of our lives. Whether we are talking about automated cars, where cars are driving on their own. We are talking about drone, the deliveries of drone, which uses certain form of artificial intelligence. We are talking about laborers in workforces. So artificial intelligence can almost significantly impact different parts.
Of course, but এমনি ধরেন মানে knowledge readiness perspective থেকে you have incredible experience working with developers and you know the current state of where our developers are. Do you think they're ready to embrace AI and really integrate it?
I don't think it's a so I'll say it this way. I think there are very good people যারা can actually capable and can actually work on that. But আমার মনে হয় যেটা আমাদের স্টার্টআপ ইকোসিস্টেম বা ডেভেলপারদের আমি যেটা দেখি there is not enough interest. So there is a bit of a hype cycle where a lot of startups just hyped but not actual, and do very mundane things like how to deliver a very simple stuff.
Right.
But really cutting edge things like artificial intelligence or the one we talked about, সেগুলা আমাদের এখন ওই রকম ফান্ডিং বা ওই রকম ইন্টারেস্ট আমি দেখি না।
Okay. Is that what you think is stopping or not really starting this journey of transformation?
I think two things. One is that আমাদের যারা এগুলো নিয়ে কাজ করছেন যে ডেভেলপার তারা অনেক ক্ষেত্রে ওইখানে ফান্ডিং নেই.
Right.
So that's one of the things. Second is obviously in some cases a lot of these require a much longer term approach.
Right.
So আমাদের ওই longer term approach টা অনেক জায়গায় absent. So I think that impacts how much we want to involve into these areas.
When do you think gene editing would come to Bangladesh?
DNA editing টা একটু different কারণ হচ্ছে DNA editing টা requires very high level of investments, right? And you're talking about probably that very. So we are talking about universities like Harvard and Berkeley are involved into this sort of thing. We're talking about the very top-notch universities. So, and it's not, it's not like not only Bangladesh. It's not available in most of the countries, right?
Of course.
So I think that's I don't see coming in
anytime soon. Right.
That is not when I say coming in. I don't see people doing it locally.
Right.
But obviously the result of this DNA editing from other markets may come in. As in terms of medicine and stuff. Right?
Absolutely understandable. What about blockchain?
Blockchain is actually would probably be coming very soon. I know there are a couple of people who are already working on that. Bangladesh market. So blockchain is will be very mainstream very soon, and I know there are a lot of initiatives going on that. So
fantastic. So bhai apnar to you have I don't know when did you start investing? If I am to sort of shift the conversation towards the most interesting stuff after future is your investment experience and how you have basically invested in I don't know like 500,000 startups till date. So apne ekhon dhoren মানে how did it all begin or আপনি কি ওটা একটু পরে আসি but a futuristic investment perspective থেকে have you already sort of invested in firms that are working with AI?
মানে হয় কি তোমার মানে আমি যেসব কোম্পানিতে বিভিন্নভাবে ইনভলভড আছি or investments or whatever, so those are some of those companies are like there's one company called Hyperloop, which is a concept given by Elon Musk, and then recently Richard Branson has taken over as a chairman and is now renamed as Virgin Hyperloop, so stuff like that. They're trying to really revolutionize the transport, air transport and rail transport the way we know it. There's one company which is called Planetary Resource. So this company actually is thinking of asteroid mining. So they are planning to send rockets to mine asteroids. So the whole idea is that there's so many minerals in asteroids, so can we bring those and bring it in?
So ওরা কি শুরু করেছে ভাই?
So they haven't actually started the mining yet, but they got investment from Luxembourg government, so they're really coming up. So there are a lot of, and CRISPR obviously, one of the company called Caribou Bioscience, actually is done by a professor in Berkeley who actually started the whole concept. So she's the first one who actually came up with the research, and then she formed a company. So so these are very, very mainstream companies in different places.
Unbelievable. So মানে আপনি এই ইনভেস্টমেন্ট গেমে কবে থেকে, when did you enter this investment game?
So I left Bangladesh almost 15-16 years back. So I mean, my last when I was in Indonesia. So what happened is I was first approached by a couple of founders who was setting up a fintech company.
Right.
And they wanted some help on understanding the fintech landscape and talking with regulators and stuff. Right. So I started helping them.
So that was 15 years ago?
Almost like 12 years ago. Okay. So and then, at some stage they wanted to raise some funds. So I said, okay, I'll help them. So that's how I got into the investment in startups.
Okay.
And once I got
did you sort of know from within that you will get into this investment game?
Not really. I mean, so before that I was not very interested in startups. I was sort of like busy with my own jobs and stuff.
Of course.
So when I was trying to help these founders, then I got interested in the whole startup space. And when they wanted to raise some funds, I put in some, And then, of course, once you get into this, it's sort of like a rabbit hole. You get to know so many people. You get interested about so many companies. Then
you just keep.
Then you become
getting deeper. Nice, amazing. So, apne thoren Bangladesh, you have a lot of investments as well in startups.
Few, not lot.
Few. Okay. So most of your investments are
in different markets.
Different markets. Amazing. Super. So, আপনার যদি just একটু ছোট করে আপনার ব্যাকগ্রাউন্ডের ব্যাপারে একটু যদি কয়েকটা প্রশ্ন করি. So, আপনি were you born and brought up in Bangladesh? Here. তারপর আপনি where did you do your studies?
So I studied in Nordham College and Dhaka universities, and then I worked with Standard Chartered Bank. So I left as part of the Standard Chartered Bank.
ACB was your first career?
So I left that. I was for a few. So there was something called the Greenlace Bank, but this more Standard Chartered, and then I left. As part of the Standard Chartered, I left Bangladesh almost 40-50 years back.
Right.
Worked in different markets in Africa, Asia.
How was Africa?
It was very interesting. I mean, I think one of the biggest misconception about Africa is that I was based out of Lagos, Nigeria, which is a very vibrant city.
Right.
A lot of things that are happening there. So, but it's very, very.
How long were you in Africa?
Around 5 years.
Oh wow! So, what do they speak in Lagos?
So the common language is English.
But really?
It's a different. I mean, there are different states which speaks different Yoruba and different types of language, but the common is English is pretty well spoken.
Okay, nice.
Widely spoken,
Nice. So, tapor apne Africa emerging markets you were mainly.
So my last was in Indonesia.
Right.
Okay. So I was also part of Stanchart and then stuff like that, and then of course, and then I left Stanchart and then got into all these investments and stuff like that.
Okay, so ACB শেষ করে আপনি ইনভেস্টমেন্টে ফুল অন
then I get much more involved.
তারপরে আপনি Telenor Health.
Then after 2 years back, then Telenor approached that they're building a health business and whether I'd like to head that.
Nice.
So I joined Telenor Health.
Amazing. Super. So bhai আমরা একটা ছোট ব্রেক নিব. We're going to listen to an amazing song. Now it's turn for me to play whatever I want because Sajid Bhai gave me the liberty to. So I'm going to play Bruno Mars's Finesse because it goes a lot with Bhai's personality, which is full of finesse. So we're going to take a short break and we're going to come back and we're going to hear Sajid Bhai talk about his journey in Telenor Health and the healthcare industry of Bangladesh. Stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen. Don't go anywhere.
90.4 FM. Startup Talk with Zaki Adnan. Startup Talk.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? You are listening to Startup Talk with me, Zaki Adnan, on Dhaka FM 90.4. And we have the amazing Sajid Rahman, the CEO of Telenor Health, with us. And Bhaiya has been telling us some amazing stories. I'm actually studio বাইরে আরো অনেক জোসেস গল্প শুনছি, but we're going to get there. So ভাইয়াকে জিজ্ঞেস করছিলাম about his journey in Telenor Health. So far we talked about the future and the three big trends and their relevance in Bangladeshi market. So ভাইয়ার একটু করে was kind enough to share his background. So ভাইয়া আমি আপনাকে একটু জিজ্ঞেস করতে চাই যে why Telenor Health? মানে আপনার এত এক্সাইটিং পোর্টফোলিও অফ স্টার্টআপস এন্ড
So আমাদের হয় কি যে if you look at Telenor the mobile network, right? So we live in a world যেখানে তোমার we have millions of people connected, right? So tomar, but they don't have access to some basic services. So we have people who's probably carrying a mobile phone, maybe a smartphone even, but don't have very access to very basic service like financial service or healthcare. So the question is that if we have so many people connected with the mobile phone, which is more powerful than the first Apollo mission to moon, can't we find a solution to some of the hardest problems in the world using this mobile phone, right? So that was the background. And then we thought that, okay, let's take health. Bangladesher jara mobile phone use kore, can we deliver health service to them? A digital health service where they can access to healthcare, to doctors, to to health insurance, to health content over mobile phone. So that started the whole Telenor Health journey.
Amazing.
Because I think this is one of the areas which will significantly transform the way we live.
Absolutely. So it has been 2 years
roughly
since Telenor Health began?
2.5 years.
So আপনার এই 2.5 years what are your biggest realizations about the healthcare industry?
The healthcare industry যেটা হয় যে মানে so globally healthcare industry is challenged in different ways, right? So every country has their own challenges. Bangladesh, we have done a lot of development in terms of what we call mother and child, all those areas. So there's a huge development happening. কিন্তু বাংলাদেশে and সব দেশেই তোমার what we call NCDs, non-communicable diseases like diabetes, high blood pressure, cancer. These are growing at a rapid rate. তুমি যদি বাংলাদেশের হসপিটালে যাও, you'll see more than 60% people die because of NCDs.
Oh wow!
So that's a big problem. One of the revelation for me being in this space is that I think there are so many things to do. If we can build a very strong network and give a sort of like a safety net around people so that they don't sell their lands to pay their medical bill, that's a big thing to do.
So health insurance is one of the key focus areas for
one of the areas, right?
Telenor Health?
Yeah. So what we do is we don't underwrite the insurance. So we obviously take insurance from another insurance company and put it as part of the package. But yeah, so I think our component is 3. One is this what we call health content, how to live a healthy and well-being. Second is access to doctors, either phone, video, app. Third is access to cash. Either insurance discounts and all those things.
Wonderful, fantastic. So এই 2.5 বছরে আপনার মানে obviously Bangladesh's digital adaptation is a big challenge at this stage. So how do you think people are responding to your solution?
So আমরা যেটা করি আমাদের সার্ভিসটা some of the services are purely digital. Some of the services you don't need to have a smartphone. যেমন আমাদের অনেক service like calling to a doctor you can do over simple line. Or getting a health insurance you don't need a smartphone. So a lot of our services are available to feature phone or regular phones also. So we have more than 5 million customers.
Wow.
So it's growing very fast.
That's amazing. Mashallah. So এখন ভাই মানে যদি আপনার কাছে কয়েকটা কোয়েশ্চেন করি ধরেন our listeners যারা শুনছে they'll definitely benefit from this information যে ধরেন Telenor Health এর মানে Tonic, right? Tonic is the application and Tonic এর through people basically get all the services. So আপনার ধরেন the what should I say মানে call outs to the doctors ধরেন আমি একজন বাসায় আমি পড়ে আছি I don't know who to call, my parents are probably ill, so what should I do? I just pick up the phone and call up Tonic hotline?
So আমাদের একটা নাম্বার আছে 789. So এই নম্বরে you call and you can
from any operator?
No, only for Grameenphone
for
operators.
GP operators.
এখন আমাদের জন্য it's only for Grameenphone. So you can call 789, you can talk with a doctor 365 days.
Free.
24 hours. So there are different products. So if you buy, let's say what we call Tonic Asha. So there you can talk with doctors probably 30 minutes every month.
Wow, that's fantastic.
There is one which is Tonic Basic where it's not free, but you just pay for how many you talk, how many minutes you talk. So it depends on what service you buy. But I think we have many cases where we have found people calling at the middle of the night, getting help and actually saving lives. So.
Fantastic, amazing. So I know we're talking health, but all I can think about is investment. What's it? So last time we talked about your experience in the investment sector যে আপনি বাংলাদেশে mainly খুব একটা বেশি ফোকাস আপনার কিছু জায়গায় আছে and you're also focusing mainly on the global startup. So what is your primary motivation in investing? What do you look for?
So startup investment korle na mane you get three distinct benefits, right?
Okay.
The first benefit is what we were talking at the beginning. So there are startups we are working at the very cutting edge technology. যেটা হয়তো আমরা অনেকে এখনো আমরা চিন্তা করতে পারি না, right? So once you invest in those companies or you're associated with those companies, you have a front row seat of what is happening in the technology space. যেটা হয়তো আজ থেকে 10 বা 15 বছর পরে যাবে, but you can see it now that this is the way the world is evolving. So
like
that's
planetary resources.
First,
and then caribou science.
Yeah, there's a company called Human Longevity. So the person who's doing it, he's known as father of DNA. He's a Nobel Prize winner.
Oh, wow.
And he's the one who first, found the DNA, structure and stuff.
Okay.
So anyway, so some of the things you can basically see at the front, right? So I think that's one. The second thing, I think, when you invest in some of these companies, you actually learn a lot.
Of course.
As you work with this, so unlike investment in a typical stock in a public market, you don't have any control on the outcome. You can actually help the founders in many ways.
Absolutely.
Right? So you basically see a company very first hand, and you learn a lot from their struggle, which you can bring into your life.
Right.
Whether you're working somewhere or whatever business you're doing, you can bring those lines.
So, sorry for interrupting, but for example, you're connected with planetary resources, so you get constant updates from them.
Time to time,
and you give them advices.
So যেটা হয় কি যে তোমার বিভিন্ন startups depends on where the startup is at what stage, right? So some startups are very mature, some is very early.
Right.
So a lot of startups reach out and to say that, okay, we want to hire let's say a lead engineer.
Right.
Can you introduce us, or can you help us, or we want to raise the next funding
round of financing.
Can you introduce us to investors, or these are the products we are seeing, what are your thoughts? So it depends.
Nice.
Depends on
okay, amazing. So the front row seat. Number 2 হচ্ছে like next level learning that you can blueprint in other aspects of life. What would you say the third motivation?
Thing I will say is that it actually builds your network.
Okay.
So as you involved in different startups, you actually come to know so many people who are so optimistic about future.
Of course.
And wants to change it, that you become part of a network which can actually help you in many ways, right? It's not about learning and bringing it back, but in terms of, let's say if you're working somewhere and you're doing these investments, it's basically open up a lot of doors for you.
Amazing, fantastic, great. So 3 leading motivation for Sajid Rahman, ladies and gentlemen, and why you should also think about investing. So a great perspective to think about. I know I will after I get home. So bhai amra ekta chotto break nibo, amra aita gan shune asbo. So I recently came across this song called Done For Me by Charlie Puth. It's a very nice song, and maybe something your son listens to when you're working. So we're going to check out the song, we're going to come back. Amra ekta jeta korchi, amra a shorter video korchi, and amra show shesher pore we're going to upload it on Facebook, and you can all check it out. And if you want to write to us, apnara Dhaka FM 90.4 Facebook page giye you can write to us, and we can definitely read out the messages. And if you have any particular question to Sajid bhai, please ask away. So stay tuned, we'll be right back.
Dhaka FM 90.4.
Startup Talk with Zaki Adnan. Startup Talk.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? আপনারা শুনছেন Startup Talk with me, Zaki Adnan, on Dhaka FM 90.4, and আমরা শোয়ের একদম শেষ প্রান্তে চলে এসেছি। সাইদ ভাই, আজকে সরি আপনাকে রোজার দিন এতক্ষণ ধরে আটকে রেখেছি, and thank you so much once again for making some time and joining us. ভাই, we have this staple segment in our show যেখানে আমরা আমাদের esteemed guestদেরকে we ask a few rapid fire questions. So are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, so the first question is very basic. So describe yourself in 3 words.
Focused, self-assured, and learner.
Wow, very nice. Focused, self-assured, learner. So what is your spirit animal?
Dog. I love dog.
Really? Why?
Why? Dog is very friendly.
Okay, do you have a dog?
Yeah.
Ektai niki apnar. What is he called?
It's Fluffy. My son named him.
Okay, nice. All right, so 3 things in a person that annoys you to death.
I think again the opposites. So
Okay.
lack of focus,
Lack of focus, lack of self-assurance,
lack of self-assurance, and laziness.
Laziness. Okay, perfect. So laziness is, I think, a very common, trend that people really dislike. So next question: What product would you refuse to promote?
I mean, anything that impacts health. in a
Wow,
negative way.
nice. So junk food,
Yeah.
maybe.
Tobacco.
Cigarettes, yeah. Okay, fantastic. So, if you could teach any subject in any grade, what subject would it be? Which grade would it be?
Not a subject, but I will teach people how to tell a story. Because I think
Nice.
we are moving in a world where, everyone can get information, but
Right.
the world will be led by people who can tell stories, right? So,
Wow.
So for
Absolutely.
children and others to learn how to tell stories is very important.
So, आपने कौन grade A storytelling शिखाते चान?
I think the earlier the better, right?
But any
People, I
particular?
think class, I guess when people are, class 5 or 6, they should start learning
Class
how to
5 or
tell stories.
6. Interesting. Very nice. Super. So, two last questions. If you're a typical stranded in a beach question, so if you're stranded in a beach, you get to pick 3 people to be with you for the rest of your life. So, আপনি ওই beach-এই থাকবেন. So, who are those 3 people?
My wife, my son.
Of course. Who's the third person?
Third person I have to think. I guess, I don't know. Maybe one of those authors or scientists. I mean, but I'm okay with 2.
Elon Musk? Maybe.
But not for lifelong, So I think 2 is fine.
Of course. Okay. So you have your wife and your son with you, and you get to pick 3 objects to take with you. What would those 3 objects be?
I think one will be obviously books.
Books.
I love to read.
একটা বই নিতে পারবেন. What
একটা
book?
বই।
হ্যাঁ, যেটাতে
So I think
সারা
Sharajuwan, so there is one book which I think people should read. It's called 0 to 1.
0 to 1, right?
It's by Peter Thiel.
Thiel,
I think that's a very good book.
Absolutely.
Not for lifelong, but I think it's a very good book.
Of course.
So I'll take book, obviously. I'll take something to cook, foods.
Of course. Otherwise, yeah, like cutleries.
Something to do that. And then, of course, you probably need a boat.
Absolutely. To travel across islands. Nice. Fantastic. So that was the end. So I hope it didn't make you too uncomfortable.
No, it's fine.
Okay, so ভাই একটা মেসেজ এসেছে আমাদের কাছে from Saad Bhaiya. So he has a very burning question যেটা আমারও মনে আছে, and I'm sure most of our listeners. So we wanted to end the show with these 2 words of wisdom from your experience. So Saad Bhai asks, what are your top advice to startup investors?
For the investors, I think I'll say 2 things. One is that startup investment is very risky. So they should approach this cautiously.
Okay.
And should only invest the money they're ready to lose.
Okay.
So if someone has 100 taka, the person should be investing 10 to 20 taka, not more than that in startups. The
Okay.
rest can be in other, regular investments,
Right.
lands and stuff.
Right.
So that's one. The second thing is, the startup investment can be also very rewarding. So
Of
the
course.
return of startup investment can be many, many multiple times.
Right.
So, but it requires a lot of patience. So startup is very liquid, and it's not going to give a return overnight. But if someone is interested to do this startup investment, the person should have a patience and approach it more from a learning and helpful point of view. Some people say the startup investment is almost like a marriage. In fact, it's
Right.
longer than marriage.
Right.
Because in marriage you can
Right,
get divorced, but startup investment you're pretty much stuck for 10, 12 years or maybe longer. So unless you like the founder very much, unless you like the product very much, you don't invest.
Wow, very nice. Amazing advice. So know your product, know your founder, and invest the amount that
Ready to lose.
you're ready to lose. Amazing, fantastic. So one last advice from you before we end the show today. Startup founders, they ache for advice, and they need direction. So from your experience, what are the top advices that you would like to give?
I think the first thing is founders, because I get approached by a lot of founders, they write long emails, just approach. So I think the first thing the founders need to know is how to approach an investors. Right? So ideally, you should approach an investor, especially the busy ones, through connections.
Right.
Cold emails, cold calls really don't help.
Right.
Or a message in LinkedIn or Facebook, really.
Right.
No one is going to respond. So I think they need to know how to approach investor.
Right.
So that's very important. And the second thing I would suggest
So if you could elaborate on that a little.
So for example, let's say someone wants to approach me. So rather than just sending a mail or stuff like that, the mail should be either through someone who knows me well,
Right.
so through an introduction.
Right.
So if let's say someone approaches you and you introduce someone, then I'll probably be opening that mail.
Excellent. I have tons of proposals lined up.
And then
I
the
will.
second thing is obviously the person needs to, when they're sending the mails, they need to be very clear to the point of what they're asking. I see a lot of people approaching with long emails.
Right,
no one has the time to read
full
those.
background there. Right.
The other thing I would suggest the founders is to work on areas that is really going to impact lives. I don't see the world needs another messaging app. I don't see the world needs another Instagram. But I see a lot of people working on these sort of things, which is not going to change lives. So do things that's going to change lives.
Amazing. But thank you so much. Amra show shesher dike chole aschi. Again, we cannot, express our gratitude for you and taking so much time out of your life. Thank you for sharing such amazing stories. I individually feel very inspired. So inshallah, I hope to bring you again to our show very soon someday. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Zaki. Thank you.
Thanks. All right, guys. So we're done with our show for today, and আজকে রোজার জন্য বেশিক্ষণ কথাও বলতে পারলাম না, but I hope the story Sajid bhai shared really inspired you guys. So we're gonna end the show with a kick-ass song called Hot Blood by Kaleo. Enjoy, stay tuned, and happy Ramadan.
This is Dhaka FM 90.4.